Welcome back to Connerty Meadows Farm. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ricky. Today we are going to show you a video on how we made these beautiful log style cabin asparagus beds. In these pots are unfortunately my asparagus. Over here are my 3 asparagus beds, and last year a mole or a vole got into them through the season and kind of cut back on many of what I had in there. When this season started, only a handful of asparagus popped up, and so I dug up all the strawberries and put them in pots, and I dug up the asparagus and potted them up. What you see here with these stakes is I'm going to be building some above ground garden beds that I can actually line with wire so that the moles and voles can't get into them. So there's going to be a bed here, and a little walkway, and another bed there. And we've spent the last couple days in the bush cutting down the trees and stripping them all. So that's what's going to be happening there. These guys will go back into the beds, and then I have more asparagus on order. Thomas is still working on this bed. He doesn't really have a lot of time given that he's doing work during the day and then schoolwork at night, but this will be the asparagus bed. This one needs one more level, and then the other one will be here. So this was actually the asparagus and the strawberries. So all those strawberries in pots will come back into these beds when they're ready, but for now, at least they're in pots. So the asparagus that I actually managed to rescue from the 3 areas that I had them in here, we put into these pots, and so once the beds are done, they'll go back into the bed. It is not recommended that you move asparagus. This is not a recommended thing to do. I just had no other way to save them. So unfortunately, this is what I'm doing, and some of the strawberries are in these pots. Our neighbor came over and showed Thomas some techniques as a log builder, how to build that. So the first one was just the 2 layers, and then there's the 3rd layer. So at this point, 1 whole bed is complete, and there I have it lined. I ran out of soil, so I do need to put a smidge more soil in. And then I'll add a little bit of sand as well for drainage, and then the strawberries that I potted up will go in this bed. So now we just have this one to finish. I think it looks really pretty though. Look how nice it is. All notched out, little log house. It's a little log house for asparagus. Now I just cross my fingers and hope that they survive the transplant, because it's not really something you're supposed to do. But I did what I had to. This picture just gives you an idea of what a notch would look like and a drawn out notch on the other side. And here we're just quickly showing you, this is in fast forward, so this is not actually this fast, but we're just showing you how we get rid of where the tree branches are. It's just slow, small movements, and you're just kind of flattening it out. The next step is to hold the things in place. You use these like claw bar things. I know there's a proper name for them. Maybe log builders will know. I don't know what the name is. So you just hammer them into the areas, and then the log stays in place and you're able to work around them. So you can see this is the width of the bed, and now that it's held in place by the bar, he's able to easily get rid of all of those areas that had the tree branches. So please keep in mind that this is again in fast forward, just because nobody wants to watch each and every detail. But I just wanted to give you a general idea of how things are happening. I've also muted the chainsaw noise because it's quite abrasive on the ears. So the next step is he is measuring the distance that he will have to, what's called, scribe the log. And this part here is how he's scribing. So he took the measurement that he needed to take, and then he is measuring. And if you look on the right hand side in between his hand, you'll see that there are actually levels on this scribe tool, and you actually have to keep both of those levels level in order to get the scribe exactly where you want it to go. And this is what is drawing the line, so he will know where to cut next with the chainsaw. And he has to do both sides. So you can see here where the mark is for the pencil. It's a little bit harder to scribe around the red claw holding it in place, but unfortunately I'm not always strong enough to hold it in place for him, nor am I steady enough. So this ensures that it's not moving while he needs to move around and do the scribing. You can see it's a little bit slow because you want to make sure that you're level. And now we're back to chainsaw work. So we actually flip the log over, and then you cut a whole bunch of little lines in the area that he has put the pencil marks on. And you can see it's like basically making little sandwiches. Use a big hammer and you hammer it all out. And then that makes it easier for the next step. The next step is, surprise, more chainsaw work. So now he's just evening out all of those little sandwiches that he cut out, and he will be grooving this very, very carefully so that it will fit over top of the log nice and tight. Just to show you, it is slow, small movements. Clean it all up in there just so that it'll turn over and slide down. So that's what it looks like when it's done. It's kind of like a little bowl shape. When you have both sides done and you turn it over, you can see that how snugly it all fits together. Nice and tight. So the gap on the bottom, we just slide another log in there because you can see how it's elevated off the ground. So we do cut a log to the length in the middle, and we slide it in. And then we do this last little bit called chiseling. And what this is so that the logs all sit nice and tight and flush against each other. Here's another log just to give you another view of it being done. So just take small little pieces to notch it out. And that was what we were able to accomplish. You can see it is coming along nicely. And as you can see, everything takes quite a bit of time. There's precision and care and measuring in order to make these look perfect. Of course, if you're needing to build a bed quickly, this is not the quickest way. But the plan here was to learn some skills on house building, so at some point in the future he'll be able to translate those skills from house building to a proper log cabin and not just an asparagus bed. We got a little creative here because both of these beds had a bubble in the same spot. So this is not normally the way that you would make these two slit flush together, but there was such a huge notch that we just decided that this was the way to go. At the end of the day, as we've said many times while we were building these beds, this is not a house. This is just has to hold dirt. So the other thing we did was we drove spikes in. And as you can see here, as I'm showing you, the spike is 12 inches long. And we wanted to make sure it went through the thickness of the boards, which were quite thick. So we put, I think it was 4 down each side, 1 on each of the final ends, although the ends were notched really, really well. We just wanted to make sure that this could withstand the pressure of the soil. So putting these in was kind of a needed thing to do. On the raised beds that we have for the main garden, we actually ended up drilling rebar through the 3 logs on them and drove the rebar down into the ground. We chose to do this one slightly differently and a little bit easier instead of drilling and slamming rebar down into it. we just put these spikes in it instead. And it seems to, so far, be holding up okay. I guess time will tell. Just a little bit more. It's quite exhausting pounding those huge spikes in. We're on the third log here, and there is also cardboard down. So what I did was I put cardboard down underneath the whole bed. When there was only two, I knew I'd still be able to lift it, so I lifted the bed and had the girls help me put cardboard down underneath it all. What that is going to do is it's going to smother any weeds down below. But the other thing it's going to do is it's going to encourage the earthworms to eventually move from the ground up into the new raised bed. Earthworms absolutely love cardboard, and they will break it down over time. In the meantime, the soil will go on top of it, smothering out any life of the seeds of the grass that may come up through the bottom. This is a very inexpensive way to create ground cover and prevent weeds from going up, while at the same time encouraging an ecosystem in your new raised bed. The most important step was adding this wire. This is 1/4 inch hardware cloth, and it goes all the way around the bottom of this bed and up past the first log. And then I have put around some fabric barrier to line the bed. The first bed I just lined with grain bags. I just had some of this I purchased from before, and it's just stapled down like I just showed you there. I do have a video on how I show you how to line beds with grain bags. The technique is the same with this one. It's just one whole big long strip. You can see, so this is what it looks like from each angle. The wire is there, and hopefully, crossing fingers, this will prevent the moles and voles from coming up from the bottom. They'd be very brave to come up from the top because the cats. And then I gently put down soil all around the corners of the bed so that everything that I have in place stays where it's supposed to stay. I then filled the beds to about where the first log came to, and then I put the asparagus in, and then shovelful by shovelful carefully put the rest of the soil around the asparagus, trying to make sure that I didn't break any of the asparagus. And here we are, both beds completely full. The only thing left to do is add sand and the strawberries. Thanks for hanging out with us on the farm as we went ahead and made our new asparagus beds. Remember, as I had stated before, moving asparagus after it has emerged is not the smartest thing to do, but in this case, we did what we had to do to get the job done. So far, everything is looking nice and green. The true test will be what it looks like next year. We'll see you next time.